Hey y'all. The next Adobe application we're going to introduce you to is Adobe InDesign. This is one that we use for any layout needs that we need, whether it be for yearbook, magazines, newspapers. These would all be done in Adobe InDesign throughout the industry. So what we're going to first start off as, you're probably got a whole bunch of different little thumbnail icons and stuff, whether it be videos and stuff that you can see or different templates that it has offered for you to use. So we're going to make those all go away so that when you open it next time, hopefully it doesn't show up if we get it done right. So we're going to go up here to edit. Come on, go down to preferences and click file handling. Now, as you're going through this, if you need to pause this video at any time, say, hang on, lady, I need to go and do this. So you pause it and you go do what you need to, and then you come back. So, but right now we're going to go get that template or preferences open, and we're going to make this go to 0, number of recent items to display. We don't want to see any, we don't want any of that stuff back over here. So once you finish that, go ahead and say okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new document. So you probably don't have recent or saved. You probably just have print because you haven't done anything recent and you haven't saved anything yet. So, but it defaults to pixels, and pixels there's 72 pixels in an inch. That's what you see on a screen. Your cell phone is in pixels. Your camera is in pixels. Your Chromebooks are all in pixels, and everything that you see on a screen is in pixels. So there's 72 points in an inch. There are picas, though, that we use. We're not using inches. We are using picas. There are 6 picas in an inch and 12 points in a pica. So if you multiply those by each other, it's 72 pixels or points in an inch. Pixels and points are the same thing. Pixels are on the screen, points are on this printed document. So we need this to be in portrait mode, which is the vertical. Horizontal is landscape, but we're using this one. We need 2 pages, and we do want them to be facing pages, so make sure that little guy is checked. What are facing pages, though? Facing pages are the left side and the right side. So when you close a book, it has 2 of the pieces of paper that face each other. This would be like your title page, where this is your page 1, and then you go to page 2 and 3. So we're not working on that guy, we're working on these 2 guys together. They're friends. So that means we need to start on page 2. We do not want a primary text frame because that means it automatically puts a text frame on your document, but we're going to be doing our own little design as we do on every yearbook spread, so we never need a facing page. The columns, we're only going to have 1 column on this because we're going to actually use grids and guides to be able to set that up. We're going to have quite an extensive little grid structure here set up in just a minute. So the gutters, we need 0 points on our gutter. Now, go ahead and scroll down here. And the margins, we're going to set this up to make sure that this is unchecked or unlinked. See, here's your linked. We want this link to be broken. So we're going to set this to 5 picas, 0 points. The bottom is 5 picas, 0 points. The inside margin is 0 picas, and the outside margin is set to 4 points. Picas. So the bleed and slug, the bleed is when you take any of this off the edge of the page, and then you need it to go beyond that, because when this is actually printed, it's going to cut that edge right there. So we need the bleed to be locked together, and they're all going to be 1 pica. Oops, we're going to make it 1 pica, 0 points, and click tab, and it makes all of them the same. So then the slug is where it includes all of the document information for the printer. So we're not going to have anything on the top, but the bottom is going to have 3 picas. So that should be broken. So 0 picas up here on the top, 3 picas on the bottom, and we're going to say create. So now you should have something that looks like this. So this is your regular document or your regular edges. This is your bleed. So anytime you design a spread, you're going to stay within these guides here unless you're going to bleed it. And if you're going to bleed, there's nothing in this unless you go all the way to the edge. And then down here is your little slug information. There's not a whole lot you're going to see with that until I get the documents ready to go to the printer, and then it will include that when we do the registration marks and all that kind of stuff. We send the PDF to the printers. So, but before we go any farther, we're going to set up our grid. But to do that, we're going to go click up here, and we're going to, if you hover over this little line that goes all the way across, it turns to this little guy. We're going to drag that down a little bit so we can see the master pages. So go ahead and double click on the master pages. And now we're going to go in and we're going to set up the grid so that it's the same on every single page if we were to add subsequent pages to this document. Right now we're only going to build these two, but we want this grid to be on here. So we want both of these guys. So hold the shift key down and you can click both of them. That makes it so that it builds this grid to all the way across. So let's go down over here and we're going to go to the grid. So get that set up. We're going to go to layout. We're going to scroll down over here to create guides. So when you're doing a lot of layouts and stuff in Yearbook, everything should be built on a grid so it looks like it all lines up together. So that will make more sense when we get into subsequent pages or subsequent videos from here. So with the number of rows that we want, rows are what goes across. So you might count row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. But here we want 22 rows. And the gutter we want in here, this is the space between those rows, is going to be 0 picas, 6 points. And for the columns, the number of columns that we want is going to be 16 columns. And again, the gutter is going to be 0 picas, 6 points. We want those columns and grids to be built within this frame structure, page frame. So we're going to make sure that it's clicked on margins. And then there shouldn't be any existing things on there. You can preview it and see what it's going to look like. And there you go. That's exactly what we want it to look like. And we're going to say OK. The only problem is this green gets really annoying when you're trying to build to it because it's just so strong on your eyes. So we're going to click and drag up in that top corner, drag all the way to this bottom right hand corner so we can get all of them selected because we're going to go change the color. To change the color, we're going to go to layout and we're going to go down to rulers and guides, ruler guides. There it is. We're going to change that color. But we don't want any of these. We want it to be like a really, really light gray, even lighter than this. So we're going to go to custom. And so we're going to scroll this guy all the way up here. So it's just super light, but still light enough that we can be able to see it. So, I mean, if you want to pick these colors right here, then that works just fine. I'm going to say OK. And say OK. And now if I click off of it, there we go. That nice little light gray. But we're also going to edit the color of these this grid or the page frame margins that we're going to build for there. So we're going to go up here. We're going to go to edit and we're going to go to preferences. And then we're going to go to grids and guides. Edit preferences, grids. All right, so here, these are all the different things that we can build on here. There we go. Sorry, guides and pasteboard. Make sure you clicked on that one, not just grids. All right, so the margins, this is this guy out here. So we're going to change the margins to this violet color, not violent, but we're also going to change columns to the same color, to violet. So this one doesn't have a preview, but that's building these guys. It's going to change the colors of those. The bleed is, we want that to be red because it kind of helps you remember, like if you cut your finger, it's going to bleed and it's going to drip all over the place. So we're going to have the colors, it's going to drip right off the edge of that page. So the slug doesn't really matter what color it is. We're hardly ever going to build with that. We can do the snap to zone. We can leave that one right there. And we're going to say, okay, go ahead and build it. So there you go. Now you have this bright purple. This is bounding box. You're not going to go out beyond that. So there's one more thing that we want to do before we build anything else. We're going to go to view, grids and guides, and we're going to lock the guides. So now you can't pick them. You can't click and do anything. So that is built all on the master page. So we're going to come down over here. See where this little arrow is? That is what it thinks is the beginning of this section. So we're going to double click on that and it just looks just the same, right? Well, that's how it's supposed to look. So now your page is built. You can't select any of those grids and guides, but now you can use those grids and guides to build your page. Now, before we go on and do the layout, let's go ahead and save this document. So I want to show you where to go to save this. We're going to go to File and Save As. Then we're going to drill back into our Google Drive. So you should have one that says @WPISD. It has your whole email address. Then you're going to go into My Drive, and you're going to go find the folder for Google Classroom, which is just Classroom. And then drill into your Principles of RAV and Communication class, which is, I don't have one of those because it's not my class. So I'm just going to say it would be in the yearbook 24. And then you're going to go in here and I would say create a new folder. And you're going to do the About Me spread. And I go ahead and make that a folder. If you didn't already see that, click New Folder and make that a folder there and hit Enter. Then you're going to double click into that folder and you're going to say About Me space dash space your first initial and your last name and say Save. That folder is where you're going to put all of your pictures. So you're going to need to be taking pictures, collecting pictures, and all that kind of stuff to be able to build this layout. And that will be it.